everybody know what it means to diversify? Okay, so we went, in the first couple weeks of the class, we went from business level strategy, and then more recently we get into corporate level strategy. Business level strategy is how does a company that competes in one industry compete against its competitors, right? That's sort of like the Porter stuff, right? When we get to corporate level strategy, now we have a company that competes in this industry, competes in another industry, competes in another industry, right? So it's diversification into multiple industries. And the question is, why do firms compete in multiple industries? Why isn't it just one company competing in this industry and a different company, right? Why don't they split them up so that they're individual companies, right? And the answer is that right, so it was sort of an icebreaker in the Video Vault thing was, where did Kingsford charcoal come from, right? And so Kingsford charcoal charcoal is made from wood scraps, and there was a lot of wood scrap that came off of the Ford assembly line from the Model T cars. And so Kingsford charcoal was able to take something that was a total cost to Ford, right? Total cost, this scrap wood, and turn it into something that generated revenue, right? So 1 + 1 is greater than 2, right? That's the value creation story. Kingsford charcoal came from Ford Motor Company, right? So there's that value creation story. General Electric competes in aircraft engines and power generation equipment, and it needs all of this R&D in high temperature metallurgy. So they are able to have R&D at the corporate level. They do it once and they can apply it in 2 different locations, right? So they save in costs. They're spreading those costs, those R&D costs, over multiple products. So economies of scope, this dirty word, I think it's a dirty word, synergies, right? 1 + 1 is greater than 2, all sort of mean the same thing, right? They're all talking about the same thing, right? So what is economies of scope? What's the difference between economies of scope and economies of scale? Right? So economies of scale are, it costs a lot of money to produce this very nice pen. This is my favorite pencil, right? It feels really nice, right? So you need somebody to design it. You need somebody to do the molds, create the molds, to put it together, right? Everything that goes into creating one of them. But then once I've created one of them and I have that, I can then spread those costs over 100,000 of them, right? So it brings my average cost down, and that's what economies of scale are about. Economies of scope are the GE story, right? That I can spread R&D over multiple products. So economies of scope are about multiple products. Economies of scale are about one product. All right. Level of diversification, right, versus performance, right? So what's that about? So firms, right? So the value creation story is really not about the products, the relatedness of the products, right? So charcoal and automobiles, very unrelated, right? It's about the underlying value chain activities, right? That's the value creation story. And so there's this kind of inverse U-shape between performance and level of diversification. All right. So as firms diversify, right, they kind of go up the one side of the curve. And as they over diversify and it becomes like very unrelated, there are costs